Hello everyone. Today I want to recap and explain how I turned exactly one Exalted Orb into what is now, I have 4 Divines, 600x, and I have more selling, about another couple Divines. So if I were to tally it up, it'd be at least most likely like 10 Divines I made in, I think, what was 7 hours? All live on stream, so in case you have any doubts or suspicions, feel free to scroll through my VOD and put yourself through that. But I'm going to explain each step of the process that I took to get there, from what I did with one Exalted Orb all the way to what I've been doing towards the end of the stream and how I achieved this goal. Quick little plug, like I mentioned, I did this all live on stream. You can catch me at twitch.tv/electropoe. I'll link it in the description. Also, I do stream on YouTube if that is your platform of choice. Another thing is I looked at the statistics on my last 2 videos, and it seems like about 90 to 95% of the people watching my videos are not subscribed. So if you could drop a subscription, you'll be notified when I upload new videos. That'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you. All right, I'm gonna break this part of the video up into steps. I'm gonna do what I took 1x and turned it into, the first 100 or so. And then from there, we're gonna move on to other things I did, and then on, I'll explain what I plan to do in the future. If I haven't mentioned already, this is gonna be a Zero to Hero series. Whether that hero ends up being 100 divines and then I put that 100 divines into a build and I do something with that build, or that ends up being something else, is to be determined depending on how quickly we are moving. Obviously, I don't want to spend 3 weeks doing this challenge, but let's start off with the 0 to 100 or 1 to 100 exalt range. The first thing I did with my exalts is I went to Ange and I traded my 1 exalt for alchemy orbs. As you can see right here, alchemy orbs, you can get 27 instantly, or if you wait a little, you can get up to 50. Now, this spread of money is very important into what I did later on and how I use the auction house to make money, but let's stick to what I did with these alchemy orbs. With these alchemy orbs, you can go onto the trade house. I'm going to try and do everything in game and simply just search up, if we have here, unique, and then we can make the buyout price alchemy orbs, and we just search. And as you can see, there's something here for 1 alchemy orb, or even if we buy this for 14 alchemy orbs. Another currency you can buy uniques with is regal orbs. As you can see, 1 regal orb. And why do we want to buy this? Because when you vendor and disenchant a currency, a unique item, you will receive a chance orb from this fella right here, Zolan. That 1 chance orb, right? That 1 chance orb, or that 1 chance shard, if I can type this in here, chance shard, sells for exactly, oh, now it's even more than 1x, but I was trading it for exactly 1 exalted orb. So what does this mean? You can take your 1 exalted orb, right? Buy 4 regal orbs, or if you want to wait, you can buy up to 6. Buy 4 uniques, get 4 chance shards, sell it back, and now you have 4 exalted orbs. And I continue to do this for roughly the first 10 to 20 exalted orbs. Then I realized when you buy uniques, these uniques cost like 10 to 15,000 gold. I started with, I think, around 4 to 500,000 gold. I feel like that's not too crazy of a starting place. Obviously, I wanted gold to be a scarce commodity and I wanted to factor into my prices, but I also can't start with 0 gold, as people now use the automated trading system and you have to have gold to buy from that. And I just thought it seemed fair. I'm starting with 1 exalted orb. Besides the point, obviously, I was spending a lot of gold, and I realized this wouldn't be sustainable, as the ways you can buy gold, whether it's buying castaways through TFT or like selling rare items, cost around what 6,000 gold is around one Exalted Orb. So the money I was spending wasn't worth it, but I needed to get over that hump. The next thing I did was something where you could call it a point spread, you can call it split trading. Now, I want to shout out a viewer. Phelon was the one that recommended this and really got the idea and showed me a bunch of other places where you can make money. But the thing I was doing is these chimes right here. When I was trading them, you could buy them for 5 Exalted Orbs, and then you could resell them for 10 Exalted Orbs. So I was trading them over and over. Let me see if I can find something that is still you can still do that with. The other thing I did this with is with Cowardly Fragments. They had a better spread while I was doing this. Unfortunately, it seems like most of these... Oh, perfect, right here. So what you would do, as an example, obviously I didn't do this right away as this is a more expensive item, but I was doing this towards the end of the stream, is you flip this around and you see if you have one of these, people are willing to pay 114 Exalted Orbs. So you would just set a trade one higher than what people would do, and you'd flip it around. So this would put in a buy order for 115 Exalted Orbs. And then, when you would eventually get this ordered filled, you would flip this around and be like, if you have 129 Exalted Orbs, people, like, this is the other side of the order, right? So I would just put another one lower, and then I would flip this around, and then I would sell the one fragment I had for 128x. I'm going to leave this order up to see if it can get filled so I can show this live on video. But that was the idea for the first, I don't know, first couple divs. Even until now, I was still flipping the market. So number one strategy was flipping the market. All right, so we're back not even a couple minutes later, and this order was filled. So now, exactly as I mentioned, I'm going to take this, and I'm just going to look at what people are paying on the other side. It's 129, so I want my order to be filled fast. Do 128, flip it around, and I bought this for 115. Obviously, like I mentioned, this is a more expensive item, but just to show while I'm explaining the next thing, my next strategy was, for a little while I was also doing these smaller split trades, I guess you could call them, or flips on the auction house, I was also sniping bases. There's a lot of bases, for example, normal gold amulets. Let's just search up gold amulets real quick in the market. We do gold amulet, we do normal. Where is this? Normal. Right here, normal. And as you can see, item level 75, because the item level matters when people buy bases. And buyout price of Exalted Orb equivalent. As you can see, they sell for 10 Exalted Orbs. I just set up a live search trade for a maximum of 3 Exalted Orbs, and I would snipe a bunch of these bases. I was doing this with gold amulets. I was doing this with normal breach rings. I was doing this with heavy belts. Oh, perfect. And just filled my order. So right here on video, I showed you no cuts, no nothing. I got my order live filled. I spent 115 Exalted Orbs and 1.5k gold. And then I got the item, spent another 15k gold, and then just flipped the item for a 13x profit. Basically doing nothing. I could have these live orders set up and I could be watching YouTube and I could be flipping just because there's a spread on the prices. But back to what I was doing. I was flipping these white bases. I was sniping them. Just had the live trade open. And I would try and be the first one to buy them. And then I would just relist them for a higher price. Honestly, this is not the most fun gameplay, but it is a challenge. I did start with 1 Exalted Orb and I had to do what I had to do. I will mention that in this league, mapping is very lucrative. If you have a good build, if you have rarity, if you're juicing your maps properly, you can make good money. So this is just supposed to be for those people that don't really want to map or don't want to do the early mapping and want to get the currency to buy a build, or, you know, only just want to hide out warrior for fun. The next thing I did, even though it wasn't a lot of currency, it was still something, so I want to highlight it, is ring crafting. I crafted rings like these and like these prismatic rings that you see here. And then the ones that sold, and I did belts too. For belts, it's pretty simple, taking you back to 0.1 if you played then. You buy a belt with, let's just do this all in the game so you guys can see. You buy any belt, belts, any, and then you search up stat filters, empty suffix, 1. So that means it has an empty suffix that's not been used yet. And then you want maximum life on it. And then you do a weighted sum search of minimum, let's say 60. You put the reses, resistances, explicit cold res, explicit lightning res, explicit fire res. Boom, boom, boom. You get the idea. What this will do is this will show you belts with at least 1 open suffix on them. At least 100 maximum life on them, and at least 60 reses with 1 open suffix. As you can see, these belts are like at least like around 1 Exalted Orb. If you want, you can make it has number of charm slots, so you can filter for at least 2 charm slots, and you can see these belts are worth around 3 Exalted Orbs, and they have an empty suffix. What does this mean? That means you can spend 1 Exalted Orb and have a chance at adding a resistance on it. Now let's look. Let's imagine we add 25 resistance onto these belts. The sum of our weighted search would go from 60 to 90. And what do you see? Okay, well, let's do 85 to be generous. And you see these belts go up in price. Honestly, they're not going to sell for 2 div. I'll be honest. Oh, it's because I'm searching with the empty suffix. If we make it 85 and then without an empty suffix, you can see that these belts are now worth 50 some odd Exalted Orbs. How often you will slam on a resistance, I'm not too sure. In my experience, I only did like 5 belts, I think, and I got resistances on 2 of them. I had a viewer do it, and he got 3 belts with resistances out of 15. So it's roughly that amount. Either way, it was positive EV for me. I did that. The other thing I did was ring crafting. I went to rings, amethyst rings, item rarity, magic, and then I just said the only thing I want is an open prefix. This means it's a magic item with an open prefix, and then all elemental resistances. All elemental resistances of 15. That is a tier 1 all elemental res roll. Okay, I realized I'm just stupid and I pressed empty suffix modifier. So we're back. These bases run me... Actually, let's just do this live. These bases run you around 15 Exalted Orbs. So you would go here. And you would buy this base. Beautiful. 15 Exalted Orbs. Now we have a ring base. From here, you would take a perfect augment. And honestly, just basically hope you get a good prefix. A lot of the times you'll hit mana as that's a really high weight, but let's see what we hit. Mana. Okay, like I mentioned, it's a really high weight. You're going to hit mana a lot. From here, what you do is you take a Chaos Resistance Essence, or you can take a Rarity Essence, whichever one you want to do. So far, we're invested around 15x plus 2x plus the Essence. Now, this is, let's say we're invested around 20x. Then you take a Suffix Slam, a Dextral Necromancy, which normally should cost you 1 to 1. Yeah, it's 1 to 1. You just have to wait a second to get filled. And then you take a Collarbone. Right here. And then you go Ulamans. This will guarantee an Ulamans modifier, which will be Lightning and Chaos. You go here, slam on a suffix, go to the well, unveil it. You end up getting Lightning and Chaos. I'm pretty sure it's guaranteed. I've never not hit it. So depending on the prefix you hit, you have 2 options. Let's say you hit a really nice flat damage, and the ring is flat damage, triple res. You could honestly list that up and not risk slamming it. Because I hit mana, I'm just going to slam it. But as a quick price check so you could see what this would be worth, It's probably not selling for this, to be honest with you, but you get the idea. The ring is worth something. Let's double slam, see what we hit. We didn't hit anything too great, but we did get a flat on there. So, you know, even if we remove the flat, it's still something. I don't believe it's going to sell for 90 exalts, but you can see that the value is added. Let's say this even sells for 50 exalts, and we were invested 40, and we didn't get anything that good. If you hit something better, you could sell it for maybe a divine. That was another strategy I was doing, this mixed with the belts. The final strategy I was doing that is currently not selling too well, unfortunately, but it was at the time. If you can see, a lot of my sales were breach ring, breach ring, breach ring, breach ring. I wasn't crafting breach rings. What I was doing is I was sniping them. What people do to craft breach rings in the end game is they look for one tier 1 flat modifier, which is normally lightning, and they try and fracture it so then they can chaos spam another flat modifier. If you live search a tier 1 flat modifier with 2 open affixes, they get listed from anywhere from like 10 to 50 exalts. And then you can relist them for 30 to 100 exalts and be making 40 exalts. Again, this is sniping. Again, you are competing with other people. But when you're in these lower currency ranges, there's not too much that you can do crafting-wise that is deterministic, that guarantees you won't just get unlucky 3 crafts in a row and blow all your money. When you're in these lower budget ranges, you have to do things that are guaranteed profit, as you have no cushion to lose money with. So that's why I had to do a lot of sniping, a lot of currency exchange flipping. Is it the most fun gameplay? No, but I get while I'm streaming, the number one question I get asked is, what is a currency or a profit craft I can do with 5 divines? What is a profit craft I can do with 10 divines? And often I'm left telling people that it's just simply too small of a budget to be able to craft something deterministically and know you're going to make a profit. And because you can't craft anything where you know what the outcome is going to be, you risk the chance of getting unlucky and losing money. And then if you want to craft something deterministically, the crafting currency has gotten so much more expensive that you have to have at least 30, 40 divines worth of budget to be able to make sure you don't lose money. So this is the recap and exactly what I did to get to this place where I have 4 divines, 550 Exalted Orbs,
Can I help?
about a couple, let's say, even if all this in total sells for a divine there, and then about 2 divines of breach ring selling. So like I mentioned, around 10 divines worth of currency that I made on the first day, flipping, starting from 1 Exalted Orb. If you're going to ask how I sustained my gold, I went to TFTs and bought castaways for about 100 Exalted Orbs. Another way I was sustaining gold is I was literally just rolling ROG. For example, you go here and you find a rare item. You check if he allows you to add a modifier. You skip, add a suffix, perfect. You take the item, and then you just sell it back. And this is quick gold. The currency you use to be able to do that is literally as cheap as dirt. If you look, you can put in an order for 1 to like 250, and you will get filled. Earlier in the stream, I got filled at a 1 to 400 order. So you just do that if you don't want to buy a castaway from TFT, or you could buy rare items and use an omen of bartering. There's ways to sustain your gold. Besides that, going forward, I'm probably going to stop the flipping unless I'm going to be flipping in divines. I know there's some good flips I found in divines, or like 60 exalt spreads, which I'll probably continue to do as it's a good way to supplement my currency. But yeah, that's about it. Stay tuned for the next video, which will most likely be coming out tomorrow. Stop by the streams if you want to catch what I'm doing live and you want to emulate it. I've had people in my chat tell me they made a couple divines, literally just doing what I'm doing. Besides that, thank you very much for watching.